Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving back into some entitled people stories. In one, a lifelong best friend assumes she can charge a party to someone else's card. In another, homeowners try to sell off a mansion's fixtures to cash out before eviction. And in the last, a manager gets caught using company funds for a theme park vacation. At the end, we'll decide who had the most satisfying downfall, and you can vote for which story's the best one. I blocked my best friend after she charged her son's catering to my card. Mutual friends say I should have helped her because she's a struggling mom. So here's the thing. Anna and I have been best friends since we were kids. Not we met in college and bonded over wine friends, but the kind of friends who grew up together, survived awkward school years, first heartbreaks, bad haircuts, and that phase where everyone thought they were going to be a photographer. She's been part of my life for so long that there was never really a question of whether we'd still be close as adults. It was just assumed. When Anna got pregnant, I was genuinely happy for her. I helped plan her baby shower, ran errands, held the baby so she could shower, and listened to endless newborn stories without complaint. I knew becoming a mom was overwhelming, and I wanted to be supportive. I never once felt like she was taking advantage of me. That's why what happened later caught me so off guard. Her son turned 1 last weekend, and Anna decided she wanted to throw a huge birthday party. Not a small family get-together, not cake and balloons in the backyard, but a full-on production. She rented a venue, hired professional caterers, booked a bouncy house, and went all in on decorations. It honestly looked more elaborate than some weddings I've been to. I was surprised, but figured it was her kid and her choice. About a week before the party, she started dropping comments about how stressed she was about money, not directly asking for help, just constant remarks about how expensive everything was and how tight things were getting. Every conversation somehow circled back to costs. I offered to help where I could, like picking up extra snacks or helping with decorations, but she brushed it off every time and insisted she had it handled. The day of the party arrived and I showed up early to help set up. The venue was already buzzing with activity, there were balloons everywhere, tables being arranged, staff moving around, and guests I didn't even recognize wandering in. Anna was clearly overwhelmed, darting from one task to another and snapping at people under her breath. I jumped in to help, thinking that was what best friends do. While we were arranging centerpieces, she casually dropped a sentence that stopped me cold. "Oh, by the way," she said, like she was reminding me to grab napkins, "I put the catering on your card." I actually laughed at first because I thought she was joking. When she didn't laugh back, I realized she was serious. "What do you mean you put it on my card?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked genuinely confused about why I was confused. "You know, I've been struggling lately. I figured you wouldn't mind covering it, and I'll pay you back when I can." That's the most chilling part, the genuine confusion. She wasn't being sneaky. She truly believed her need and your history entitled her to your money. She had rewritten the rules of friendship in her head and acted like you were the one being unreasonable for not knowing them. I stood there staring at her, completely stunned. She'd never asked for permission, never told me she was doing this, and never even showed me a bill. I asked how much it was, already dreading the answer. "About $500, she said with a shrug. "It's really not that much." That was the moment something in me snapped. $500 might not be a big deal to her, but it absolutely is to me. I don't have spare money sitting around for surprise charges, especially for something I didn't agree to. I told her plainly that I wasn't paying for it. Her expression changed instantly. She went from casual to offended, like I just insulted her parenting. She accused me of being selfish and said it was her son's first birthday, as if that automatically obligated me to foot the bill. I reminded her that I never agreed to pay for anything and that using my card without asking was completely out of line. The argument escalated fast, and unfortunately it happened in front of a few of her other friends. She started crying, saying I was abandoning her when she needed me most. I felt cornered, embarrassed, and angry all at once. Eventually, I grabbed my things and left because staying would have just made it worse. That night, my phone exploded with messages from her. She said I ruined her son's birthday, that I embarrassed her, that I was a terrible friend who didn't understand how hard her life was. Every text was dripping with guilt-tripping and blame, and none of them acknowledged what she'd actually done. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked her. Since then, a few mutual friends have reached out telling me I was too harsh and that I should have just helped her out because she's struggling. Apparently, I'm expected to swallow a surprise $500 charge in a public confrontation because motherhood excuses everything. I don't see it that way. Struggling doesn't give you the right to spend someone else's money without asking. Being best friends doesn't mean I'm a backup bank account. If she had come to me honestly and asked for help, I might have said yes. But deciding for me and then acting shocked when I said no crossed a line I'm not willing to ignore. I miss the friend I thought I had, but I don't miss being treated like an open wallet. And if that makes me the villain in her version of the story, I can live with that. And our second story. After gaming the system for half a decade, these homeowners tried to sell the mansion's fixtures on their way out. Once upon a time, I was a property shepherd. Banks would foreclose on properties and assign our real estate office to nurse the houses through the pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, eviction, and post-eviction periods. Banks liked using realtors because we would essentially work for free. I did a lot of work, and our only payment was if we sold the property at the end and got a commission. No sale, the banks got a ton of free labor. There was a particular mansion, 8,000 square feet, membership rights to a private golf course. In a good market, it should be worth around $3 million, but during the foreclosure years, it was just under $1 million. The property was added to my list of around 900 assets at the time. Just another house, but a pretty good commission as a reward for taking so many of the not worth as much houses. So I go through the checklist I go through with every house. Make sure the city records list the right names and the right addresses. Make sure the house physically exists. In cases of fraud, occasionally they didn't. Make sure it hasn't burned down. Arson on houses facing foreclosure/eviction was not unheard of. Is it occupied? Is the yard maintained? Is water freely flowing out of the windows? Is there a foot-thick wall of ice turning an open porch into a tunnel? I have a deep sense of loss over not being able to find that picture. Any code violations? Is the HOA foreclosing themselves for unpaid dues? HOA foreclosures take precedence over bank foreclosures, and one of my assignments was taken away because the bank lost it. Nobody had checked for an HOA lien, so I started doing one on every one, plus a handful of other tasks. House was occupied. This particular one was well into the eviction phase, so I expected to have possession within a month, easy peasy. Except what should have been a quick assignment turned into 5 long years. For 5 years, I did weekly occupancy checks on that house, drive by, take pictures documenting the condition, making sure it was occupied and maintained, keeping an eye out for code violations, keeping an eye out for HOA liens, occasionally delivering messages to the bank offering checks of up to $25,000 if they would waive eviction and just turn the house over to the bank through me. Nope, it was their house, and they were entitled to it. Nobody could make them leave, and their lawyer was making sure they didn't have to pay a dime for insurance, property taxes, or water/sewer. The bank had to pay water/sewer and the property taxes so they didn't lose the house to the city, and the bank had to assume the full insurance risk because the occupants weren't paying. I asked my legal contact how this was dragging on for so long and received an answer that it was technical, but basically the guy filed for bankruptcy, which automatically stays the eviction, and that takes a couple months to work through the system. It would be discharged, so the eviction was back on, but then his wife would file for bankruptcy. He's not being allowed to file bankruptcy until some waiting period. After her bankruptcy was discharged, he would file again. They went through a few cycles of this, but I was just the real estate guy. I didn't have a full picture of what was going on the legal scene. A couple of times I was told that an eviction was scheduled and to stand by with my locksmith and trash out crew, but each time they got a stay of eviction somehow, so it was canceled. One day their luck ran out. I was told to get over there, and as per standard procedure, the moment the bailiff told me he was done, secure the house, I arrive. There's about $200,000 worth of personal property already out on the lawn. I was ready to go. But then their lawyer came running up with a writ from the judge. The eviction was canceled immediately. The bailiff collected his crew and drove away, and I watched the occupants start to move their property, slightly damp from the drizzle, back into the house. Now comes the part where their entitlement satisfactorily bites them hard. Yet another eviction date is scheduled. Me, doing my weekly occupancy checks, sees no sign of packing up and preparing to leave. They fully expected their legal tricks to work yet again. But this time, they didn't. The bank's lawyer told me the eviction was 100% definitely on. The moves that worked before were not in play this time around, so it was a firm and definite date. No ifs, ands, or buts. I do my weekly occupancy check on a Thursday and notice that there are a lot of people going in and out of the house and a large garage sale sign in the yard, open to the public. Well, I'm the public, so I went in to take a preliminary glimpse of the house to give me an idea of how many bathrooms and other sinks would need to be winterized, etc., only to be met with price tags on everything. I mean everything. Every sink, toilet, bidet, light fixture, granite and marble countertops, oak and mahogany cabinets, pedestal sinks, bathroom sinks with marble tops with underlighting, even the solid oak doors on every bedroom and closet had price tags. Some fixtures were already gone. This is a 100% absolute no. Those fixtures belong to the bank, no question. They felt they were entitled to strip all 8,000 square feet as much as they could get whatever cash they could. And they were about to do hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to the house. The sheer staggering entitlement of this move? After living for free for 5 years on someone else's dime, their final act wasn't to accept defeat. It was to try and turn the house itself into an ATM, selling its bones piece by piece. It's not just greed, it's a statement that even in losing, they believe they could take everything that wasn't nailed down and some things that were. I call the cops, explain that there's an impending eviction and the occupants are stripping the house. Fortunately, I was in a city where they cared, many didn't. So a squad car rolled up in just a few minutes. The guy in the dark uniform told the guy that this was not allowed, the sale was over, and that he had to stop stripping the house. The former borrower swore that he had no idea it wasn't allowed and promised to stop. I didn't trust him. So the next day, I felt the house needed an extra weekly check. Sign still up, people still going in and out of the house. Call the cops immediately, and they're out in a few minutes again. This time, the cop is pissed, ordered everybody except the owner and his family. The cop let me look around, and I spotted several items missing, about $15,000 worth that I immediately identified. Cop said the ignorance excuse didn't work because he was told yesterday, and if there was anything else missing at the time of eviction, he was going to jail. Monday morning comes, time for the eviction. The house is empty of all personal property and missing a few of the fixtures. The bank, happy to be rid of him and not in the mood for yet another legal battle with him, and I think there were still some lawsuits over the house flying around, told me to just forget about it, inventory what was missing as best I could, and proceed as normal. The bids to make the house livable came in at around $100,000, but the bank didn't want to bother. They sold the house for cash as is for $1 million, even within 2 to 3 days of it being listed. With the repairs, it probably would have gone for $1.2 million, so not really worth the time or effort. And our last story. Karen used company funds for a personal vacation. Now she's jobless and house hunting. Mary started working at the college about 5 years ago, fresh into an administrative assistant role that came with exactly what you'd expect. A lot of unglamorous behind-the-scenes work that no one else wanted. She handled scheduling, documentation, compliance-busy work, and a rotating list of miscellaneous duties that somehow always landed on her desk. One of those duties was helping compile and update the school handbook, a document most people never read, but everyone is suddenly very interested in when something goes wrong. While drafting sections of the handbook, Mary noticed a line that had always existed but had never really been enforced. Staff were required to take part in professional development, conferences, workshops, certifications, that sort of thing. It was framed as an expectation, not a perk. Mary flagged it, clarified it, and moved on, not realizing she just planted a time bomb that would go off years later. Over time, Mary moved up, a promotion here, another responsibility there, until she eventually landed a manager position within her department. By then, she'd earned a reputation for being organized, thorough, and annoyingly correct about policy. Once she had actual authority, she decided to turn that professional development clause into something real. She proposed that staff under her supervision be given approved time and funding to attend conferences relevant to their roles. Morale boost, skill growth, better retention. On paper, it was a no-brainer. Enter Karen. Karen was a higher-up in a neighboring role who had a habit of blocking initiatives that didn't directly benefit her. She shot the idea down repeatedly, citing budget concerns and operational priorities, despite the fact that the funds already existed and the handbook explicitly supported it. After months of stonewalling, Mary stopped asking Karen and went one level higher straight to Karen's boss, Bob. Bob, thankfully, was competent. Mary brought receipts, policy language, budget allocations, proposed safeguards, accountability measures. Bob reviewed everything, nodded, and approved the program without hesitation. Just like that, the department was cleared to attend conferences anywhere in the continental U.S., fully funded by the college, as long as they followed the rules. Those rules were simple: submit an itinerary, attend sessions, keep notes, and present takeaways to the department afterward. For about a year, it worked beautifully. People attended conferences in their fields, came back energized, shared what they learned, and actually improved how the department functioned. Mary finally felt like something she'd built was paying off. Then Karen went to a conference in Orlando. When Karen got back, she made sure everyone knew she'd had an amazing time, not because of the sessions, mind you, but because she'd gone swimming with dolphins. She brought it up casually in meetings, dropped it into conversations with other directors, and mentioned it more than once to Mary herself. Mary didn't think much of it at first. Conferences sometimes have free afternoons, and people are allowed to enjoy themselves on their own time. That night, Mary mentioned it to me while we were lying in bed. I grew up in Orlando, so when she said where Karen had gone, my brain immediately did the math. Where did she swim with dolphins, I asked. Mary told me the name of the place, run by a very famous company with a whale for a logo. I sat up. That place closes at 5:30. When did she go? Mary froze. She grabbed her phone and pulled up Karen's submitted itinerary. No free afternoons, no long lunch breaks, 3 full days of sessions scheduled back-to-back. According to Karen's paperwork, she had attended every single one. Mary didn't sleep much that night. This is the moment the puzzle clicked. It wasn't just a suspicion, it was a specific, provable contradiction in time and place. Your offhand local knowledge turned a hunch into a hypothesis, and Mary had the tools and the disposition to test it. That's how integrity catches entitlement, one small verifiable fact at a time. The next morning, she went full forensic accountant. She pulled Karen's flight details, hotel stays, meal reimbursements, conference schedule, and expense reports. Then she checked the Dolphin Experience's hours of operation. There was no overlap, none. The only way Karen could have gone swimming with dolphins was by skipping sessions she claimed to have attended. That's when Mary checked social media. There were photos. Not just dolphins, but theme parks, smiling selfies, sunny timestamps, rides, shows, all during conference hours. Mary compiled everything into a neat, devastating packet: itineraries, screenshots, timestamps, attendance requirements, policy excerpts, and a written summary explaining exactly how the rules had been violated. Then she sent it to Bob. About an hour after Mary got to work, she texted me 2 words: "Bob is furious." Bob didn't act impulsively. He did what good administrators do. He quietly verified. He spoke to people Karen had bragged to, comparing stories. He checked attendance logs. He reviewed expense approvals. By the end of the week, the picture was painfully clear. Karen had attended 1 session of a 3-day conference. She had falsified her report, submitted a full-time card, used company funds to stay in a resort hotel, eaten on the college's dime, and spent the majority of the trip playing tourist. She had then bragged about it to multiple people, apparently confident no one would question her. She was terminated. The official reasons were airtight: falsifying records, misuse of funds, dishonesty, and time theft. Mary's involvement remained anonymous, but Karen wasn't stupid. She knew exactly who had the access, the patience, and the spine to connect those dots. Karen sent Mary a series of increasingly unhinged texts, accusations, threats, late-night messages dripping with bitterness. The college issued a cease and desist, and that was the end of it. The fallout didn't stop there. Karen's husband, from what we heard, contributed very little financially. She had just traded in paperwork on her new house days before being fired. The oversized SUV disappeared, replaced by something much more modest. Her name vanished from the internal directory almost overnight. I don't celebrate people losing their homes or livelihoods, but Karen had spent years taking credit for Mary's work, dumping her own responsibilities downward, blocking opportunities, and coasting on authority she didn't deserve. She didn't trip. She didn't get unlucky. She documented her own downfall and handed it to the one person meticulous enough to read it. The conference program still exists. It just has tighter oversight now. And Karen never did get to present her key takeaways from SeaWorld. All three stories are about the fallout when someone's sense of entitlement meets a firm boundary. The friendship story is a painful lesson in respect, and the mansion strip down is epic in its audacity. But story 3 wins for its flawless bureaucratic checkmate. Karen wasn't just caught, she documented her own crime and delivered it to the one person detail-oriented enough to build the case. It's a masterclass in letting entitlement self-destruct. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.